Call to order the December 17th, 2020 meeting of the Radnor Township Zoning Hearing Board. We will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. This has been, no newsflash. This has been an odd year, and a lot of the ways that we traditionally operate have been disrupted. One of the things that we usually do each year and have not gotten around to this year, which is more my fault than anyone, is to recognize the service of former members of this board who have whose terms have expired or have left the board to do other things. So this evening, we're going to take care of that with respect to two of our former members. One former member, Scott Simon, who was an alternate member of the board in 2018 and 2019, was unable to join us. Scott has moved out of the area and had a commitment this evening and was not able to join us. But we wanted to thank him for his service to the township and his service on the board. Similarly, we are joined this evening by a former member who now I can't see on my Zoom screen. This is great.
John,
there. Okay.
John, I got cut off. I'm on the phone now.
Okay. That is the voice of Bill Martin, who was a longtime member of this board from 2014 through earlier this year. And he also served as chair of this board in the years 2017 and 2018. And we wanted to thank Bill for his service to the township and his service on this board. He was certainly a valued member of the board for quite a long time. And we're happy that he can join us this evening. And Bill, we just wanted to publicly thank you and acknowledge your fine service on behalf of the township. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Great working with you.
Thank you, folks. Thank you for taking the time to do this. I enjoyed working with all my colleagues there and the staff at the township, and I appreciate all your continued service on behalf of the township. Thank you.
It was great being on the board with you, Bill. You were a tremendous asset.
Thank you very much.
We dare say a voice of reason. Bill, and I know now that you know you've participated this far in the meeting, you're not going to be able to tear yourself away. So feel free to stay on the meeting for as long as you'd like, or if there's something else you have planned, you can obviously drop off when you need to. But thanks again.
I'm sure all the applicants are in good hands, I'm sure.
Yeah, and next time you're in town, breakfast is on me. Okay.
Thank you, John.
Cool. Thanks.
Good night.
All right. Good night, Bill. Moving on, we have Appeal 3063. The applicant Corey and Catherine Lonberger, property located at 513 Midland Circle, are requesting an extension of time for obtaining a permit under section 280-144 of the zoning code for an additional 6 months to August 3rd, 2021. Is the applicant ready to proceed?
The applicant is. Good evening.
Hi, good evening.
As you noted, we've received a favorable decision on August 3rd, 2020. And
Counsel, I'm sorry, could you, for the record, could you note your appearance so Norma can get it in the record?
I apologize, Norma. This is Lee Stivel, 46511. I represent Corey Lundberger and his wife, Katie Lundberger.
Thank you.
As we originally noted, the Lundbergers were accorded with a favorable decision permitting them to expand their home. They were going to add an addition on the left-hand side of the home and a small entryway on the right-hand side of their home. This board granted them variances related to coverage and side yard and a little bit of rear yard, a little bit of front yard. They've run into a little bit of an issue with regard to timing. 6 months is very short to move a project like this, especially when you reside in the home. I'll ask Corey Lomberger to take over and give the board a specific reason why they need an additional 6 months. Corey?
Yes, thank you, Lee. We are in the process of getting our bid document.
Sorry, Mr. Lomberger, you're going to need to be sworn in.
Okay.
Norma?
Sir, if you'll raise your right hand. You do solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth.
I do.
And spell both names, please. Thank you.
Yes, Corey, Corey. Last name is Lonberger, Lonberger.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you. We have started the process. We've taken down some necessary trees that needed to be done. We've started with having meetings with architects, etc. We are just waiting on the final docs from our builder. We're told that we'll have those this week. He's just been backed up because of other projects that got held up because of COVID. And that's really the real reason that we need the extension. We have we've been meeting with designers. You know, we're full speed of it ahead on our end. We just got a little bit delayed with everything that's been going on.
Corey, do you believe that an additional 6 months should be sufficient to derive a building permit?
Absolutely.
Thank you. That's all the applicant has.
Thank you. Are there any questions from members of the board?
No question.
Okay. I see none. Is there, I'm sorry, Lisa, are you on the line or are you, okay, I think I see you. You're on mute. Are there any public comments with respect to this request? I don't see any in my mailbox. And Lisa, if you could just confirm on the record that there are no comments on the email box that you're looking at, that would be great. Okay, I don't see any, and I am forwarded the emails, so we will proceed on the assumption that there is no public comment in the email box. I would move that the applicant be granted the 6-month extension they're requesting. Is there a second?
I'll second it. It's Brad.
Thanks, Brad. Any discussion? I'll move the vote. We'll do the vote by roll. Mr. Delizia?
In favor.
Mr. Nagel?
In favor.
Ms. Foreman?
In favor.
Mr. Weitzman?
In favor.
And I'm also in favor. So Norma, that's 5-0. Good luck with the project. Hopefully you can pull your permit and get going and not see us again, which I'm sure you'll be very happy not to do.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Solicitor, oh, wait a minute. Did I see Mr. Cornelia? Mr. Cornelia is with us. Okay, we'll
Yes,
move
I'm
on
on.
to, great, thanks, Nick. We will move on to appeal 3046, the applicant Glenbrook Avenue Investors LLC, property located at 812 through 814 Glenbrook Avenue. Request an extension of time for obtaining a permit under section 280-144 of the zoning code for an additional 6 months to June 30th, 2020. Is the applicant ready to proceed?
Yes, thank you, John. This is a request. Relief was granted under appeal number 3046. Preliminary plan approval was also granted by the township. What we're waiting for is a sewer module. We did get one extension previously from the board that runs down December 31st. We feel pretty comfortable that we should have the approval from the sewer module within the next 6 months. And that's the reason for the extension, is that we're still waiting to hear on the approval for the sewer module.
Okay, Mr. Cornelia, do you have anyone from the owner with you this evening?
Tim Rubin should be on. He's
I'm here.
okay.
Mr. Rubin, if you could get sworn in, Norma.
Sure.
And sir, if you'll raise your right hand. You do solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth.
Yes,
And if you would state your full name and spell both names, please.
sure. It's Tim Rubin, T-I-M, last name spelled R-U-B-I-N.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Great. Mr. Rubin, just a quick question. So it's been some time, folks, I'm sorry. If your case is not on, if you could put yourselves on mute, that would be very helpful. I'm getting some background noise there. Thank you.
John, that's me. I'm on another meeting. I'll lower that. I think.
Oh,
that's
I'm sorry.
me.
Okay. Okay. Mr. Rubin, I'm sorry. It's been a while since you were granted the relief in order to proceed with the property. Do you anticipate that this will be the last time you'll visit with us? It's been, obviously, as Nick pointed out, we've granted one extension so far. I know it's a little bit out of your hands because there are third parties involved, but do you feel that we won't see you again if we grant this extension?
Yes, to your point, everything that's within our control is done. Drawings, engineer drawings, architecturals, bids, contractors secured. So we've been ready to roll since probably last spring. So we're ready.
Okay, great. Are there any other questions from members of the board on this? Okay, and Lisa, again, I don't see, hold on, let me refresh my mail for a second, hold on. I don't see any public comments in the mailbox, so we'll proceed on the assumption that there are no public comments on this extension application. I will move that the applicant be granted a 6-month extension to pull a permit until June 30, 2021. Is there a second?
I'll second it again.
Okay, any board discussion? Okay, I'll call the vote by roll. Mr. Weitzman?
I'm in agreement.
Ms. Foreman?
In favor.
Mr. Delizia?
In favor.
Mr. Nagel?
In favor.
And I'm also in favor. That's 5-0. Good luck with the sewer module. Good luck with the project, and I hope you guys get started as soon as you can. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to Appeal 3082. The applicant RHR Enterprises LLC, the property located at 362 West Lancaster Avenue and split zoned C2 commercial and R5 residential. The applicant is requesting a variance from sections 280-53A and B and 280-49A, B as in boy, and D as in David to allow for the use of walk-up service windows in conjunction with its proposed Rita's Quick Service restaurant, where the ordinance requires a use to be enclosed within a building and further prohibits items from being offered for sale beyond the front line of the building. Is the applicant ready to proceed?
Yes, Mr. Chair, we are ready to proceed. However, there's one preliminary issue that I wanted to bring to the board's attention. I've had some discussions with the zoning hearing board solicitor in advance of this meeting, and apparently there could be an issue with the owner authorization requirement that Radnor Township has. We've supplied a sublease that provides my client with the authority to proceed forward with this application and to proceed forward with the walk-up window issue, and makes the sublease contingent upon the grant of approval. However, the owner of the property was evidently not a party to that sublease. I have witnesses here today, including Mr. Chippis, who is Director of Real Estate at Rita's, and he can testify to the conversations he's had and the involvement the owners had through the process, but we don't have with us tonight that written authorization that I believe, in speaking with Mr. Economides, that Radnor requires. If that's the case, what I would request is that we proceed with this hearing and make any potential grant of relief contingent upon my client providing such written authorization within the coming week, which is something that I assure the panel, and I've spoken with Mr. Chippis that we can do. However, obviously, we're in your hands.
Yes, and in fact, I've looked at paragraph 33 of the lease. The lease provides that the use in the fashion that the subtenant would like to use for the service window is permitted under the sublease, subject to the city, which is presumably the township, granting the variance that would be required to do that. I do not read paragraph 33 as authorizing the filing of this application. And this is fundamental, and I'm sorry that our staff did not bring this to your attention earlier. But we have no credible, at this point, basis to believe that the owner of the property is accepts or agrees with the filing of this application. I'm happy to get the thoughts from the other members of the board with respect to going through the process of the hearing on the assumption that the authorization of the owner will be obtained within some period of time. But you know, it's a fundamental instruction that is on our application form, and it was surprising to me this afternoon when I looked at the packet and did not see an authorization from the property owner. What do the other members of the board think about this?
I'd be interested to hear what our solicitor recommends.
Members, obviously, it's been proffered that a witness will testify. It's whether or not you believe that that's sufficient. It is a standing issue. You can't proceed unless you're satisfied that the applicant has authorization to proceed from the owner. Testimony from a witness could be sufficient, but that would be up to the board to decide that as a preliminary issue. If Mr. Chippis's testimony would be sufficient, you don't feel as if it would be, there's no point in proceeding with it. But if you do, then we'd have to hear from him, and if you're satisfied once hearing from him, you could proceed, and obviously still make it a condition, as Mr. McGeegan has suggested, making it a condition of the approval, if you do approve, that written authorization be presented.
I'm okay with hearing the witness.
Other members?
Yeah,
I'm
it's
okay
Rich
with hearing
White.
the witness also.
Yeah, I agree. I'm inclined to proceed, and if it comes, as long as we can make it contingent, then yeah, let's proceed.
Mm-hmm. And if I could also note, Mr. Lucas, who is the property owner, he was CC'd on the correspondence from the township advising that we were placed on this agenda and providing the Zoom notice as well. Would the board prefer I present Mr. Chippis's testimony as to this point right now, or would you like to hear it in due course?
Let's proceed. Yeah, let's proceed with the presentation of the case. Mr. Chippis can testify whenever you had intended that he would testify in the course of the presentation. Let's proceed again. You know, we'll get to the issue of if a determination is made to grant the relief, we'll make it subject to the presentation of the appropriate authorization.
Okay, and I appreciate the courtesy of the zoning hearing board with that, obviously. Thank you very much for your time here tonight. I represent RHR Enterprises, who is owned by Bob and Heidi Ruprecht, who are on the call today. They are franchisees of Rita's, and what we plan to do is we plan to open a Rita's quick service restaurant at 632 West Lancaster Avenue. The property is zoned C2 commercial. It is presently home to a Primo's restaurant. The Primo's is going to lease us 500 square feet of space in order to place the Rita's at that site. Very briefly, before I present the witnesses, the property or the plan is compliant in terms of use variance or uses, in terms of parking and dimensionally. The one hitch is we're requesting these 5 variances as the chair discussed, and the 5 variances all relate to the service of food, i.e. water ice, through walk-up windows at the front of the store. I hope that we're all somewhat familiar with the Rita's business model, which includes the service of walk-up windows. In this particular location, it's 500 square feet. It is not large enough for interior access to the Rita's for customers, and that's not part of Rita's standard operating procedure as well. So we're requesting these variances today. In fact, as a result of the Radnor Township ordinance, the Rita's standard business model cannot operate in any commercial district in Radnor Township because of these ordinances that limit the service of food through the front part of the building. I believe that the board has recently been tasked with variance requests from the same provision, but I believe that was with respect to, I believe, a bank and an ATM. So it's a similar application here. With that, I have with me 2 witnesses I'm going to present. First is going to be Bob Ruprecht, who is one of the owners of RHR Enterprises. I also have with me Jake Chippis. As I mentioned, he is the director of real estate at Rita's, and he'll be more than happy to provide some detail as to not only the owner's involvement in this process, but also the actual details of the operation and the walk-up windows themselves. So with that, I would like to present Mr. Bob Ruprecht for testimony.
Okay, Norma, would you please swear the witness in?
Yes. Sir, if you'll raise your right hand, please, I'll swear you. When you do solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth.
I do.
And would you state your full name, spell both names, please?
Robert Ruprecht, R-O-B-E-R-T. Ruprecht, R-U-P-R-E-C-H-T.
Thank you.
Right. Good evening, Mr. Ruprecht. You've already introduced yourself to the board. What's your address?
Home address is 274 Cotswold Lane,
Right.
Westchester, PA, 19380.
And what do you do for a living?
I am an accountant, a controller at a small company, local company.
All right. And are you also one of the owners of RHR Enterprises?
I am.
And is RHR a franchisee of Rita's?
We are, yes.
Have you opened any other Rita's, or is this your very first one?
We have not opened any others. This is our first one.
Okay. And the plan is to open this Rita's in Wayne. Is that correct?
Correct. Yes.
Okay. And you've been searching for a couple of years, and you finally found this location, and then now we're here. Is that right?
We have, yes. Business model, not use a lot of square feet. As far as the business model goes.
Fair enough. So the business model, there's no indoor seating. It's exclusively the customers are outside, and they get service through these walk-up windows. Is that correct?
That is correct. Mm-hmm.
Right. So for if anyone doesn't know, what happens exactly at these walk-up windows? Is it just for the service of water ice, and the transaction occurs through the window?
Yes, it is. Yes.
All right. So will
water
your
ice custard? Yeah.
Oh, I apologize. Didn't mean to cut you. Sometimes Zoom works like that. So correct me if I'm wrong. Will there be any indoor service at this location?
No, there will not be.
All right. In fact, would they even be able to access the interior of the store?
No, they would not.
All right. Is this similar to other Rita's locations that you're familiar with?
Yes, it is. To the best of our knowledge, yes.
As far as you understand, if you don't get
hold on.
You're
Yeah,
having a microphone
interference.
issue.
Oh,
Yeah. And I believe I may have lost one of my eardrums.
Me too.
I apologize. Is this any better? No.
No.
Hang on, let me.
We're much more generous graders given the technology that we have to deal with. Don't worry.
If this isn't better, I can call.
I suggest you call.
I will call.
We will wait.
Thank you. Thank you. Much appreciated.
Okay.
I guess that was Bryce's audio.
I think so.
Okay, can everyone hear me?
Yes, you can.
Okay, echoing.
Hang on.
I think you need to mute your.
Yeah, Bryce, it's echoing. You might have to turn one of those off.
Okay, I left the online meeting, so I apologize for that. I hope that there are fewer echoes now. Okay.
Great,
Again,
thanks.
apologies for that. So let's see here. All right, so Mr. Ruprecht, I believe I asked you previously, or I was trying to ask you before my technology cut out. As far as you understand, if you don't get the relief you're seeking today, if you don't get this approval, you won't be able to operate this walk-up service model REIT that you're attempting to operate. Is that correct?
Correct. Yes.
All right. And the small size of the location, I believe it's about 500 square feet. Is it true that won't accommodate any type of alternative indoor service?
Correct. Yes.
All right. Now, as far as you're obviously familiar with the site, is that right?
We are. Yes.
All right. And there's, correct me if I'm wrong, but there aren't any issues with parking. Is that right?
Correct.
All right. And as far as you understand, the present layout of the site, that will accommodate walk-up services. Is that right?
I believe so. Yes.
All right. And your plan is to install 2 walk-up windows to the left of the building when looking at it, and then move the door that would be to the right side. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right. And that will be that's the only changes that you have planned.
Council,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Is there a plan that you're referring to when you're starting to talk about directions that perhaps
Yes,
we could refer to it, but more importantly, so that it can be recorded accurately in the record?
I thank you. I appreciate that. Yes. I would like Mr. Myers, if you could, the supplemental exhibit packet, the very first page, A001. If you can look that up. And give me 1 second. I'm trying to open Zoom so I can see it with everyone else. I think that might work. All right. Okay. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Looking up at the very top of the site plan here, where Mr. Ruprecht, are those the windows that are shown at the very top portion of the plan?
Yes, they are. Mhm.
Okay. And there's, I believe, 2 windows that would be that are shown here. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right. And then there's the door that's to the left in looking at this image.
Correct.
And
Right.
so I'm sorry, so I'm clear. That's the side of the building that faces Lancaster Avenue. Is that correct?
That is correct. Let me ask Mr. Rupert, is that correct?
Yes, Lancaster Avenue would be above where the words reflective ceiling plan are.
Thank you.
Beyond the parking. Yeah.
Now, as to the function of the windows themselves, Mr. Chippis might be more able to answer those questions. Is that a fair statement?
I would say so, yes.
Okay. Now, your use, will that interfere with the neighboring Primo's restaurant?
Is that a question for me? Sorry.
No, that's okay. I can ask Mr. Chippis that if you're, that's fine.
Okay.
Now, just a few more brief questions here. Without the relief that you're asking for today, would you be able to reasonably use this space as a Rita's?
No, we would not.
All right. Now, is it fair to say you're familiar with the surrounding area and the surrounding businesses?
Yes.
All right. In your opinion, would the Rita's fit with this surrounding area?
I think so, yes. Yes, indeed.
Based upon your knowledge, have you received any complaints or have any of the surrounding neighbors reached out to you regarding any potential issues they might have with your application?
No, not aware of any.
All right. And is it fair to say that Primos is familiar with your project and they're in agreement with you proceeding?
Yes, they are.
All right. Is there any reason that you can tell this board here tonight why your use of this property would be detrimental to the community?
I cannot think of any. No, we plan to be good community partners.
Now, with that, does the board have any questions for Mr. Ruprecht or for Mrs. Ruprecht?
John, can we return to the screen with all the faces? Great. I have a question.
Yes, please.
In terms of safety, can you fill us in on the width of the sidewalk in front of the proposed walk-up window? And in being familiar with other Rita franchises, there's usually some significant space so you can line up. And I'm wondering if the parking isn't being changed, how much room is there and where does the flow go? One way or the other, you know, with the hopes that you're very successful and that you have a lot of customers waiting for a water ice.
Right. I believe Jake was prepared to answer that question, but the way it was formulated, I believe that the flow, we would be able to line up across the front of the building going down through Primos. So, and then the function of the windows would be to kind of keep the flow moving, order from one window, pick up orders at the next window. But I would like to, I guess, request or try to ask Jake if he can weigh in on this. If he,
Well, I'm sure we'll get to that.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, and to buttress that, I was going to talk to ask Mr. Chippis some questions more so about the flow of the pedestrian foot traffic and just the operations of the business.
Good question.
It's Rich Weitzman. Do we know how many parking spaces there are available? I know there's limited in the front, but is there parking in the rear of that building?
yes, there is. There is parking along the side and in the rear too, I believe.
And is there, is there sidewalk I know right in front of the building there is not sidewalk, but to either of the surrounding streets, is there sidewalk?
Obviously, I guess not on Lancaster Avenue. And I don't believe on the adjacent or on the adjacent street either. I mean, there is a sidewalk in front of Primos. The exact width, I am not sure what it is.
Okay.
Is there a larger plan available that shows the building on the property, the adjoining streets, the kind of spatial ideas that we're asking about, or are oftentimes addressed through the presentation to this board of plans which cite the premises on a particular parcel and kind of answer these questions? Because I mean, I have familiarity with the property, but it's from driving past it at 35 miles an hour, and I don't really know it intimately. So
Presently, we don't have a more specific as-built with these certain measurements on there, unfortunately. You know, what we do have is the site plan that was submitted with our supplemental packet, which again, it doesn't go beyond the four corners of the building, unfortunately. But we can get, yeah.
Bryce, do any of your photographs perhaps provide that spatial information for the board? Or?
If Mr. Myers, if you could go to the supplemental packet again, we have a few photographs of the exterior of the building, which again, they don't have exact measurements, but it gives the board perhaps a better understanding of the distances that we're looking at. And I can go through those with Mr. Ruprecht. I would ask, let's start at page 7 of the supplemental packet. All right, thank you very much. So this is the first page. It shows the edge of the building as facing Lancaster Avenue. Is that right, Mr. Ruprecht?
Correct.
All right, and this door, you're going to move that door to the other side of the building. Is that right?
That is correct.
All right, so the walk-up windows will be on this corner of the building. Is that a fair statement?
That is.
All right, and I know that Mr. Chip is going to testify this more as we move along, but is it your understanding that the first walk-up window will be for ordering, the second will be for pickup, and then that will encourage the line to hug the building as opposed to going out vertically into the parking? Is that a fair statement?
Yes, that's fair. Yes, yes, indeed.
All right, Mr. Myers, could you move to page 8 for me? All right, thank you. And Mr. Ruprecht, does this show the parking on site?
It shows the parking in front. Yes.
All right, and so it's
there
your
may
belief
be
that
it may be missing a space. I am not sure, but
understood. And then let's go to page number 9, if you could, Mr. Myers. Thank you. And now this to the far side on the right, does that show the side parking that you're familiar with?
yes, that shows some of the side parking. Yes.
All right, and is it a fair statement that even though like you said, there's no sidewalk there, I believe there's a little dirt path where it appears as if people walk from that parking to the front of the location. Is that your familiarity?
Yes, it is.
Okay. You know, and again, as far as more specifics, that's something that, again, that's information that you wouldn't have right now, but perhaps I could talk to Mr. Chippis about. Is that right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
George, it sounded like you had a question.
Yeah, it might be answered just from looking at these photos, but is there any plans for, you know, a bench or a picnic table, anything like that, where people would gather after making their purchase?
There was some talk about possibly maybe putting a bench in. I know the owners of the Primos or the landlord not the landlord, but the leasee or the sub-landlord. He maybe thought he wouldn't be opposed to putting a deck area where the trees are, if permitted, you know, just to have some seating. But that's the extent, just, you know, some preliminary discussions like that.
Yeah, just doesn't seem like there's a lot of room for that.
As far as some seating, no. It looks, in my opinion, it looks like you could maybe have a bench or two, and that might be about it at presently.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Any other questions for this witness from members of the board?
Yeah, Brad, just one question. Counsel, are you familiar or have you done research in the area to see if there's any other establishments that you could point to that have something similar to what you're asking for today in the Wayne area?
The only establishments that I'm aware of as we sit here would most comparable probably be banks, and you know, that have ATM sort of service. And now that, granted, that's not selling a product through a building, but that is service connected to the building on the exterior of the building.
I
That's
understand.
probably the only thing.
I guess I'm more looking for a property that maybe was requesting a variance under 28049B, because this is, I mean, it's specific to restaurants and actually specifically says ice cream parlor in it. So I don't think a bank would be equivalent here. So to your knowledge, there are no exceptions in Wayne right now for a variance like this.
To my knowledge, I don't know of any as we sit here.
Great.
I'm not.
I think the only other question would be, and I realize that the Ritas guy is going to be talking, but clearly the board needs to have a hardship here. You know, when it's actually a fairly high standard. Can you point to a hardship that doesn't really relate to either the fact of I would say the subtenant to which you're leasing to, where they're only giving you 500 square feet, where they could probably give you more if they wanted to, or a Rita's constraint, which is obviously a Rita's issue. It's not a property issue or a use issue.
Sure. So, you know, in looking at this, when I look at this, the unreasonable hardship stems from the fact that Rita's business model, which has been a business model for how long, in terms of the walk-up service, it's kind of what the brand is known for. It's obviously distinct from other restaurant chains out there. And based upon the ordinances as they're written, this commercial use cannot exist in any commercial district in Wayne because of the way these ordinances are written. And the ordinances as we sit here basically write out this use. So it's just the fact that Rita's, the standard Rita's operating procedure can't operate in Radnor. So that's where we point to in terms of the hardship. It's more so the fact that this use in general, I think that when these ordinances were drafted, obviously the Rita's use wasn't really thought about. I mean, I'm guessing that's back before Rita's. So I understand that. But at the same time, it's the way the application of the ordinance works, it writes out this use. So that's where our hardship would come in.
Yeah, I assume you're aware that there was a Rita's not less than a quarter of a mile away from this property that did not require what you're talking about. So it did exist. It didn't have walk-up service. It had walk-in service like the Wayne Bar and a number of other ice cream shops. There's a water ice place across from the Rite Aid in Wayne as well. So ice cream shops can survive, or Rita's water ices can survive without having windows in it. You know, again, we're looking, you know, again, I'm trying to work with you here to find a hardship here. Saying that Rita's has a certain way of working honestly doesn't work, I think, in my mind, with regard to property law, which is what we're looking for. Is there anything unique to the property or unique to the use of the property that makes it only applicable to a water ice store that, doesn't give it the ability to be used. I mean, that's, I guess I'm trying to get to the point as quickly as possible. That, I guess, I apologize.
No, understood. I appreciate that, and I apologize for making you re-ask it.
Sure.
Now, in terms of the property, the only unique aspect of the property that would inhibit its use is just the size. It's obviously a small property, and if we could do indoor type of service like the other REITs did, and again, there are some out there, we're not saying there aren't. There are some REITs that have indoor service. It's a minority of the stores. So obviously the outdoor walk-up service is the hallmark. But if we could do that, we would. But there's just no space to have any indoor service. Even if we're any other type of ice cream shop or food service shop, indoor service cannot exist at this location. And Primo's is already sacrificing a bunch of their seating to get us in there.
Great, thank you.
Okay, any other board member questions? Okay, thanks. Nothing further for this witness?
That's correct. At this point, I would like to introduce Mr. Jake Chippis for testimony before the board.
Sure. Norma, if you would.
Sure. Sir, you do solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. I think you're on mute. We can't hear you.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Now
yes,
I can.
now we can.
Okay, yes, I do.
Okay, state your full name and spell both names, please.
Jacob Chippis, JACOB CHIPPAS.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Chippis.
Good evening, Bryce.
All right. You've already introduced yourself to the board. What's your position with REITs?
I'm the Director of Real Estate and Development for REITs.
All right. And very briefly, can you just explain to the board exactly what's entailed in your position?
Well, when a franchise partner signs an agreement and we agree upon a location, it's my job to help find, negotiate, and make sure that that's the correct location, both operationally and financially, for the new franchise partner.
Okay. So is it fair to say that you're familiar with the REITs franchise and its operations?
Very much so.
Okay. Now, you've obviously heard our presentation. I'm guessing you're familiar with this particular application. Is that correct?
Yes, I am.
All right. And regarding the walk-up windows that we're requesting, is it fair to say that they're sort of a cornerstone of REITs as a brand?
Sir, hold on. I'm having trouble hearing you. If you can maybe get closer to the mic.
I'm about as close as I can be.
You're fading in and out, so.
I don't know what to say. I do 50 Zoom calls a day, and this is how I do it.
Well, Mr. Chippis, if you're cut in and out some more, then perhaps, I mean, I can tell you the phone does work okay if that happens, but right now I can hear you okay. I hope everyone else can for the moment. But if that changes, we'll let you know. So anyhow, to repeat the question here, the walk-up windows. Can you just do me a favor and explain why they're so important to REITs as a brand?
Well, they're very important. They are I guess the base model. The majority of our locations definitely are walk-up, and a lot of that has to do. Can everyone hear me? Okay.
Yes.
Yep.
A lot of that has to do with we're seasonal. So basically, March through October. So November, December, January, and February, we're not there. So the walk-up is our model. It's what our customers and guests love, and it's kind of what they know us. We become a destination with that model. And Brad, to your point, one of the reasons that the other REITs didn't work is because it was a walk-in location. They financially did not do well in that location. And I studied that very hard. I looked all over Wayne for well over a year and really couldn't find either the right location or the right fit. And when I saw this one, I knew we could make the building beautiful. I knew this would work with parking. We talked to the owner, we talked to the parking next door, the parking across the street. I did a lot of due diligence to make sure that everybody was on board with having us there, having ample parking and being safe. And what I liked about this location being 500 square feet, it became very energy efficient building. It was very operationally effective. It was financially strong for our franchisees. And it really allowed the brand to operate at its best. We're kind of a destination, and people are just used to seeing us. They're seeing us out front. And to me, this really worked well. And for me, it was kind of like if I didn't get this location, I really wasn't sure I was going to find what we needed in Wayne. And Bob and Heidi really wanted a location in Wayne. And that's what caused my due diligence throughout the last year.
Okay, I appreciate that answer. Now, before I forget, you know, like I mentioned to the board, you have, just do me a favor and explain the owner of the property, his role to this point in this application and his knowledge of this application.
We explained to the person who holds the lease now, we would be a sublease. And we were in communication and dialogue with the owner during this. And the owner was aware of not only what our model is and what we were planning, but also supported it. So getting documentation in a short amount of time will not be a problem.
Okay, and you can, you know, make that affirmation to this board that should any variance relief be granted, that we would be able to supply them with that written authorization within the coming week?
Absolutely.
Okay. Now let's discuss the actual the plan for this location. Mr. Myers, if you could again bring up page 1 of my supplemental exhibit packet. All right. Thank you very much. Now, Mr. Chippis, is this the tentative site plan that you provided with me regarding this site?
Yes, it is.
All right, could you please briefly walk the board through the front of the building, the walk-up windows that we're proposing be constructed?
Well, the walk-up windows, the way we did this can serve 2 purposes. If it's not busy, one window you can serve and then hand the order out. And when it's busy, you can utilize both windows. But either way, whether it's average volume or high volume, this setup and floor plan creates a business where we're not going to allow a lot of people to gather or swarm in that. And what we've learned with Bryce with COVID-19, having a way to get an order, pick it up, have it delivered, call ahead, having a way to pick this up without entering has become just a priority with Rita's. And basically, even locations that are few that are walk-in had to close and lock that door if they didn't have a way to get it picked up. So this is not only, I think, is going to help us now and give us fast service where you're going to order and pick up, but I think it's going to, as we go down, I think it's just going to be the way habits are now, where they can get an order. And again, we serve beverages where they can pick it up and leave on a very quick basis. And that's the way we develop this floor plan.
Sure. Now, and so in looking at this, correct me if I'm wrong, but Primo's would be to the left of this drawing. Is that right?
That is correct.
All right. And, you know, you heard the concerns from, or the questions from some of the members of the board regarding, you know, the safety issue. You know, obviously there's a parking lot directly in front of the business. I believe you mentioned before, and I know Bob mentioned it, about the service where there's one window for ordering and one window for pickup. Can you do me a favor and explain why that would be the preferred method here and why that would help the line to sort of hug the building rather than to leak out into the parking lot?
Well, and one of the reasons Primo's is such a great partner is
I'm
because
sorry. Is anybody else having trouble hearing him, or is it just me?
Yes,
Yeah,
I'm having a little trouble.
That got a little light in the beginning. Jake, can you give another shot?
Okay. and I apologize, I cannot figure out well, we have a foot of snow. I don't know if that's affecting us, but
I can hear you now.
the reason I'm getting as close as I can be without touching the screen, so bear with me. But the reason we pick Primos is because we make great partners. They're busy, very busy they prep in the morning. They're very busy at lunchtime, and their business subsides after 3 o'clock. Ours pick up after 3 o'clock. So we're very good partners for each other. So with this setup, people are able to order, step to the next window, pick it up, and walk right back around. We're able to have 15 to 20 people in line if we weren't social distancing, because it goes all the way back to Primo's door. And again, because our business model complements each other, creating this order and pickup scenario allows us to work very effectively at the Primo's location.
Okay, and that works for parking too, is that correct? When Primo's is busy, you're not, so you're not going to be traipsing over each other in terms of parking, is that right?
Yeah, we found our standard, and believe me, we've studied demographics hard. As long as we have 6 or 7 spaces in front and there's spaces on the side or across the street, that's ample parking. And this location certainly does that. Before I would even approve the location to move forward, I check a lot of boxes, and one of them is parking, both ample parking and safety in parking.
Okay. So given your experience with Rita's, is there any reason that you can see why why this site wouldn't work as a Rita's, or why this site wouldn't work for walk-up windows?
It's ideal for both firms. It's ideal for Rita's. It's ideal for our brand. It's ideal for the customer.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, actually, I believe you supplied me with some photographs of potential similar locations that you intend this location to look something similar. Is that correct?
I did, yes.
All right, Mr. Myers, if you could do me a favor and scroll down, I believe, to the very next page. All right. Mr. Chip, is this one of those locations that you provided to me?
I did. This has three points of service where you can order, pick up, and some of the franchise partners don't utilize all the windows. They may have people order and pick up at the same window. We discourage that because all that does is create a bottleneck and slows down service. If we catch a franchisee doing that, believe me, it's a disciplinary conversation because you may save labor. You may be having one person less, but it's not about labor. It's about a great service, great experience, and making sure that the customer is safe and they'll be coming back.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Now, Mr. Myers, can you go to the next picture for us? Thank you very much. Now, Mr. Chip is looking here. Those, I guess, those little pillars in front of the store. What are those?
We call them bellards, and we put promotional things on them at times. But those bellards are what protects the customer first, the building second, and they're put there as a precautionary measure. In any location we have where parking is in front of the shop.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Mr. Myers, can you go down to the next page for me? Thank you, and I apologize for the graininess of this one. But again, those posts, is that something that you plan to install on this site?
Oh, absolutely.
All right, and that's something that, again, is for the safety of the customer and for anyone else using that sidewalk in front of the parking lot. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
All right. Now, I know it was asked by one of the board members. Right now, do you know that exact measurement of that sidewalk? If you don't know, that's okay. I know it was a concern of one of the board members.
Well, I had it measured and I knew it was adequate, but I don't want to speculate, but I certainly I could get that for them.
Sure, I appreciate that. Now, I guess just in you're obviously experienced with this particular site in Wayne, is that correct?
Very much so.
All right, and have you opened Rita's in other locations that have similar access distances?
Hundreds of them.
I'm sorry, I have
I'm
no
sorry,
answer.
I didn't hear.
Can't hear.
I didn't.
Yes, I have, many of them.
I'm
Many
sorry.
of them. Is that correct?
Yes, many of them.
Okay. So, and Mr. Myers, you do me a favor and scroll down to, I think it's 2 more, not that one, but the one after. All right. And Mr. Chippis, is this generally what the walk-up windows look like?
Yes, it is. But there's different sizes. That space in the middle, it's flexible. So, it depends upon the fascia that it's going to be in, but that's a good example, yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Mr. Myers, you can take that down now. Thank you. So, apart from our need for this variance for the walk-up windows, are there any other issues with this site being able to operate as a Rita's restaurant?
No.
No. And as we sit here today, is it fair to say that there's no plan B if Bob and Heidi can't get this relief? There's no plan B for this Rita's being able to function on this site?
No, there's not. And again, I've looked throughout Wayne. I really believe that the size really fits our model. I think it'll be a great addition to the community. Bob and Heidi were vetted very carefully. They're going to be outstanding franchise partner, and this would just be an ideal location, but there is no plan B.
Okay. Now, because of the small size of the leased space, it's about 500 square feet, would you be able to do any sort of indoor service at this location?
Absolutely not.
Okay. And I believe you already mentioned it, but especially today, obviously with the COVID pandemic going on, it has been your experience that the outdoor walk-up service is a benefit to the customer and to the community in this sort of a situation?
Very much so. Very much so. During COVID-19, our walk-up locations have been very successful.
Mm-hmm. Now, so is it fair to say you're familiar with the surrounding area?
I certainly am.
And is it fair to say that you're not aware of any of the businesses within that area that are in opposition or have expressed any concern for these walk-up windows?
No, I'm not to me, Bryce, no.
All right. And from your experience, have you been involved in installing walk-up windows in other Rita's locations?
Hundreds of them. Yes.
All right. Is there any reason why such a service would be a problem at this particular location?
I would not have approved it or wanted to bring it up to the board if I thought it would be detrimental.
Is there any reason why such a service would be a problem for the general community in Wayne?
I think they love it. No problem.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
I said, I think everyone would love it, but to my knowledge, no, there'd be no problem.
Okay. With that, I would like to ask if the board has any questions for Mr. Chippis. I know there were some for Mr. Ruprecht in terms of the operations. Mr. Chippis would be happy to answer any of those questions at this time.
Brad Lindsay, just one quick question, Mr. Chippis. Of the 100 of locations that you've said are similar to this that have walkouts with I would say, a very narrow walkway, how many of those required a variance in order to open up the establishment?
I'm probably less than 10%.
Okay, so you're saying it's not ordinary.
No, it's pretty common that walk-up windows are allowed. Yes.
But when they're not, it's not common.
No, if they're not, then we'll get it. We apply for a variance. Yes.
Yeah. And do you have, I'm sure since you're a franchise, you have thousands and thousands of them. Is there from a design perspective, a recommended distance from the window to one of these pillars? You have to have one of those because you are safety conscious.
I don't. I mean, I could ask my construction department. They're the ones that said that there's adequate room. But to get a specific measurement, I'd have to ask them, Brad.
Yeah, my concern is, especially it was great that you provided the pictures because to me, there's a vast difference between, I think, the space that we're shown in the Primo's location in terms of the red markers that are obviously where the cars are bumping up to and the wall. I mean, to me, again, if I were to take a guess, it'd probably be like 3 feet. And certainly with the other pictures, I mean, we're probably looking at 6 to 8. And while I certainly appreciate in the age of COVID, where outdoor is certainly preferable, that also means that people have to stay 6 feet away, which means you have to have longer lines. It's not like before where we could be packed up next to each other and everything is great. We are having to do social distancing. And to me, again, I'm looking forward to hearing if there's anyone here in the neighborhood to talk about this. But that is my other concern: is space between the wall and or to the service window and the pillar, wherever that may be, that there is an adequate space there. But also secondarily is that people will be lining up in front of, not only in front of Primo's, but in front of Monroe in order just to visit there. And while I could say it's fantastic that you believe that there is parking across the street from Lancaster, I do not want anyone having to cross Lancaster to get to Rita's. I think that is a huge mistake. And if you ever have a question, you can ask the White Dog because they brought that issue up with us. And that was a huge concern on their part too. They don't need anyone dying to try to get food, nor do they need anyone dying to get ice cream. It's a 4-lane roadway. So for me, I'm looking at the area and saying, is there adequate parking to suffice for Rita's, as well as there adequate spacing to handle the people that may be involved? Because if it's not, again, I think there's a concern there.
If I could, when I said across the street, forgive me, I didn't mean Lancaster. We spoke with the funeral home. And they allowed us, they said, would they be happy to share their parking lot?
Yes, I can tell you many times in zoning hearing board meetings that we've heard that the funeral home is willing to let people park there. We've heard that a ton. But at some point they're gonna have to stop because everyone's gonna be parking there instead of parking in their respective lots. They're very gracious people.
And to follow up on the parking concern, if I may, Mr. Chippas, question about how many spaces are in front of the location of the potential Ritas and the Primos?
I can't hear you. Can't hear a thing.
In the front, there's a total of 8. One is a handicap, so there'd be 7 parking spaces.
Okay, and then as far, I believe, are there also some to the side of that same building, but to the side, I think we saw it on one of the pictures.
Right, there's 7 there as well.
All right, and that business, is that some sort of an auto shop? Is that correct?
It's a Monroe Muffler Auto Shop, correct.
All right, so, and that was part of the draw here too, right? Because when the muffler shop is closed, that's when Rita's high time is. So if there is a need for overflow, that would be potentially the area for the overflow.
Correct.
Okay. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt your questioning. My apologies.
No, actually, Bryce, you brought up a great question. Is there any restriction on the use of parking spaces by the landlord? I mean, does Monroe have access, or are those spaces reserved for Monroe? Great question.
Hey, Bryce, if I may, if you can hear me, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Rocco Fiorentino. I'm the realtor for Rita's Ice.
I haven't sworn him in. It's up to you.
Yeah, Mr. Fiorentino, let Norma swear you in, and then
certainly.
Hear from
Thank you.
Do raise your right hand. Mr. Fiorentino, you do solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do.
And say your full name, spell both names, please.
Rocco Fiorentino. It's ROCCO FIORENTINO.
Thank you.
I just wanted to make a few points. I know we brought up the parking, and I believe on the phone on the Zoom as well we have Tom Dolan. Tom is the franchisee of Primo and the sub landlord. So Tom knows the property intimately well. He's been there for a long time, and he can speak to a couple things. But I just wanted to share at least my experience with Rita's. I've been doing their work for a long time. I knew the founders. The first store was 30 years ago. So now, 30 years later, 650 stores in many states. They've learned a lot, like most brands do. They've evolved. And there was a number of different owners, some of them private equity. They're currently owned by a private equity group now and locally managed up in Trevose, PA. But I can tell you that there was a period with one group of ownership that wanted the brand to be year-round and wanted it to be much more than it could ever be. And they wanted the indoor lobbies so that they can be open year-round in certain locations, specifically the Northeast. Most of those locations have closed and or failed, to Jake's point. The financial model doesn't make any sense for them to be open in the winter. Wasn't really profitable for them, especially, you know.
Rocco.
Yep.
Hey, Rocco, sorry, I don't mean to cut you off. I just wanted to ask, I think the question was, and I want to make sure we addressed it, was about the parking, and are there any restrictions for that side lot? Now, I know
Yes.
you're familiar with the property, so would you be able to answer that?
I can. It's the same ownership. So the gentleman that owns the building for the muffler shop also owns the building where the Primo is and where the Rita's is proposed. So because that's all under one ownership, he's been happy to allow them to share the parking. They also share the trash compactors, the way it's set up, so they have one place for them to go and they each have their compactor. And Mr. Dolan is online too if anyone needs to ask him a question specifically about the site. I'm sorry.
All right. Hey, thank you very much, Rocco. I appreciate the clarification. And obviously, if anyone else has any questions, Mr. Fiorentino would be happy to provide answers to.
Okay, I'm sorry. Let's turn back to other questions from the board for Mr. Chippis. Yes, Jamie.
Hi, quick question. I'm sure you have data on high volume times in terms of number of customers. I don't want to rely on my personal experience where might have been 8 to 12 in a line at a 2-window property of a different Rita's. Knowing how little space there is in front of this building, even aside from COVID, can you give us some understanding of the data of how many people typically wait in line at certain times of day?
With Rita, it's basically between 5 p.m. and 9 p.m. We're busy at the same time, late afternoon on weekends and of course holidays. I don't have data on how many typically wait in line. That fluctuates based upon location and speed of service. But our busy times is in the evening, weekends and holidays.
Have you estimated how many bodies can stand comfortably in line and the flow of traffic in this area? I mean, in terms of the project being approved, it can't be detrimental to public welfare, and that's my concern.
And I gave a range because people come in different shapes and sizes, and there's sometimes children and adults, but 15 to 20 people could easily line up between the window and Supremo's door. There would not be an issue.
How far apart would they be?
Yeah, exactly. Thanks.
Well, in non-COVID times, I guess it'd be regular distance. Now, in COVID times, it'd be a further apart. We'd have to mark the sidewalk accordingly.
And is it typical behavior that someone buys the product and then goes directly and sits in their car, or stands and meanders around if there's no bench?
I think it depends on the location, but normally they will take the product and they will leave, or they'll sit in their car. If you have a location that has a patio or has outdoor seating, certainly that would attract people to stay longer. But that's not something that we're creating at this location.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Other questions from board members for Mr. Chippis? Okay.
If I could just say, I understand the concerns of walk-up windows, but believe me, you'll have great partners. Readers would only want to move forward if we could do this right. And we're just committed to be not just the type of partners you want, but just long-term people in the community. And I'm just committed to that.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chippis. Council, is there anything else for your presentation?
Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. I was, for whatever reason, I thought you were asking the board for something, and I realized you said council. My apologies. It's late tonight. No, I do not have anything else that would close our presentation. One thing that I would say is, I know that some questions have been raised tonight by the board, and that we haven't exactly had answers to a few of those, namely the exact distance between the front of the building and the sidewalk, and also distances in terms of waiting. So obviously we also need to provide that authorization. So if the board would prefer to be able to view this information and to decide based upon this information as well, we would be more than open to continuing through the hearing and to provide that for you in the interim. I don't want the board to make a decision based upon insufficient information if that's what the board would prefer. So I would like to offer that as well if the board is more comfortable.
Thank you. Appreciate the offer. Before we close out the record on the presentation, to I guess a further analysis that Brad started, I need to hear a compelling argument on unnecessary hardship. I've not heard it yet, but if you could share with the board why you feel that you meet the standard that will support a variance, I'd appreciate it.
Sure. So, this property it's a zone commercial C2, and as part of a commercial use, you're allowed food service. So that's what we intend, or that's what we propose to operate this property. Given the size of the property, there's no way to offer food service indoors. We simply can't do it. So what we're proposing is this walk-up version. Now, obviously, I mentioned as well, this is something that is very common to the Rita's brand, and this is their standard operating procedure. And unfortunately, based upon the ordinance, that standard procedure cannot operate in Radnor. You can't. It's written out of the code. So what I would say is that our unnecessary hardship is the fact that Rita's business model, standard business model, it's written out of the code. In terms of this location, I'll be blunt. The only peculiar or unique circumstance is the size, and I mean I'm not sure if that qualifies under this as unique. I mean they're small properties. I understand that. So what we're trying to do is just to do the best we can with the size of the property. That's what we propose is for the windows, because that's literally the only way that you can make the Ritas work. So is that a textbook definition? Probably not. I mean, I'll be blunt. It probably isn't. And again, like Mr. Chippis said, we wouldn't be doing this if we did not feel it was safe. And again, what we'll be more than happy to do is to go back and provide some additional numbers and to see if there's any way to extend that sidewalk or anything like that. We will be more than happy to do this, to come back before you and provide you a more complete picture. That's the only way I think I can address it, unfortunately.
Okay, thank you, council. If there are no other questions from the members of the board, Council, would you like to move your exhibits into the record?
Yes, I would, Mr. Riley. At this point, I would like to move the exhibits attached to my application, if those have not already been in the record, together with my supplemental exhibit packet.
Okay, without exception. We have some public comment that has come in over the course of the hearing on this matter. Let me read those for you. The first email comes from Mike Lahota. That Norma, that's Lihota. Mr. Lahota's residence address, I believe, is 7 Doyle Avenue, which is immediately behind the subject property. His first email, there are a couple, states, to clarify, as the closest neighbor, there is no parking behind the building nor adjacent to the building. The next comment Mr. Lahota makes is as follows. I don't know what the lease looks like, but there are access doors to Monroe's shop that would be blocked by the parking spaces they, presumably the applicant and its witnesses, are speaking of. And Monroe is typically open until 7 p.m., 5 to 6 days a week. So those are the comments from Mr. Lahota. I will send these to the solicitor for inclusion in the record. And I'm stalling a little because we also got another comment. If I can find it, bear with me for a second. I'm using multiple screens here. Another comment from Mary Ann Mahoney, that's Mahoney at 5 Grant Lane, indicating that she would like to participate in this meeting. I responded to Ms. Mahoney with a question, and she indicated that she would provide comment at the end of the testimony. I encouraged her to submit that comment promptly, and I am still awaiting Ms. Mahoney's comment to the extent she has one. So I will give her 30 seconds to get the email machine working and get a comment in, because obviously she sent an email earlier in the hearing and wants to participate, but I'm not seeing anything. So why don't we proceed? If Ms. Mahoney does in fact submit an additional comment, we will read that into the record as well. So that is the extent of public comment currently. To start the discussion of the board, I would move that the board deny the applicant the relief that they are requesting in their application. Is there a second?
I'll second.
I'll second it too.
Okay, board discussion?
Sure, Brad, I'll go first. Again, I'm not finding a hardship here. I mean, clearly the building can be used for a use that is permitted under the code. Currently is. There's no doubt about that. While I would love to have Aritas in our neighborhood, I think, well, everyone with kids would love to have it. That's not a reason to grant a variance. Again, we need to find a hardship here, which I'm not finding, which is unique to the location or unique to the property. I think if anything, it's a hardship that is being created by the proposed franchisee. I mean, that's a requirement for Aritas. It's not a requirement for a property. Secondarily, I am certainly concerned about safety. I mean, I think that is something that is a forefront of my mind. I know that property, the sign shop, the beer shop, is very close to Lancaster Avenue, and any sort of crowd there, I think, would be certainly a safety hazard. I think it'll be a parking hazard as well. And looking at the township, clearly ice cream stores slash water ice establishments can survive, in our township, and certainly there are better locations that have more space, first and foremost, to at least be in the front of the property to maybe accommodate more of a crowd, and then secondarily maybe has more of an urgency, where maybe they're having a harder time finding tenants, and therefore maybe there's more of a hardship there that it's unique to the property. But clearly with an existing property being there and thriving, I'm just not finding a hardship.
Okay, other board members, George?
Yeah, I know the hardship's a tough one. I think sometimes you try hard to find a hardship. I don't know that I have to try so hard here. I mean, the testimony was clear. They can't serve people indoors at that location, and that's as a result of the size of the location. I think the fact that it's actually not right on Lancaster Avenue. It's well back from the actual road. I think takes a lot of the safety issues. It addresses a lot of the safety issues because you're not right on a busy road. So I would like to support their application. So I'd be voting against your motion, John.
Sure. Jamie, Rich?
I'll go. I'm in agreement with Brad. There's not enough overflow space, in my opinion. By putting a window in, I think we're creating crowds. I don't believe the width in front is adequate to support those crowds, and I don't believe there's hardship. Thank you.
Rich?
Yeah, I thought Brad summed up what my thoughts pretty clearly. So I'm in agreement with Brad as well.
Yeah, and I do appreciate, George, your observation about wanting to try to be as supportive as we can to folks that want to open enterprises here in the township. Unfortunately, we have this ordinance, and to support a variance, we need to be certain that it's not going to cause other problems by solving the problem for the applicant. The RETAs that I have seen are successful and have a lot of people at them. And on this particular site, I think that could lead to problems. I don't know that there's adequate parking. I don't know that there's adequate space to make it all work the way that I'm accustomed to seeing these types of establishments work. Particularly in the summer, not so much obviously in December, but when they're operating, they are attractions. They're busy, and I just don't see how we can grant the relief that the applicant is looking for in a way that doesn't create additional issues for the surrounding neighbors, for the users that are on the site. So I'm also going to line up behind Brad on this. I do not see another public comment, so I'm going to call the vote on this on the motion to deny the relief. Mr. Weitzman?
I agree to deny the relief.
I know. I do it all the time. I'm sorry. Mr. DeLizia?
I'm in favor of the motion.
Ms. Foreman?
In favor of the motion.
Mr. Nagel?
Against the motion.
And I'm in favor of the motion, so the motion carries 4-1, and the relief is denied. There being no other matters on the agenda for this evening, I want to thank everyone for participating this evening. I want to wish everybody a great holiday season, and we'll see everyone in January. Thank you.
Happy
Thanks, John.
holidays.
Thanks, everyone.
Great holiday.
Happy holidays.